Okay, here we are for the final video in this series and the final stage in this particular stage theory. So true no self and no center. This stage is the biggest shift out of all of them. From standard perception to the witness feels very significant, but the shift to true no self and no center is even more significant in terms of sheer reduction in personal suffering. If getting the witness reduces your suffering by approximately 10 to 15%, getting a permanent centerless and boundaryless mind reduces your suffering in the range of 90% plus. Life really gets easier from here. The sense of agency is not just gone at the local level, but extends into one's understanding of world at large. It is as if you are in a near constant flow state, as everything is seen to be just unfolding. Extreme situations excluded, this takes all the stress out of regular, non-life-threatening life. So what is new at this stage? One of the first obvious changes is that the sense of a center point, the sense of there being a single epistemic agent, a single knower of experience, is gone. This results in complete and permanent centerlessness. Every aspect of experience is known to itself in its own place. This centerlessness is different from the kind of centerlessness people may report in earlier stages. But I won't go into great detail about what exactly centerlessness and boundarylessness mean here, because I've written about it very thoroughly on my Medium page, which you can read. I'll link the specific article in the notes below. I will say a few things though. The arrow of attention has disappeared now. No longer does it feel like attention is aimed at an object in the mind from some other place. The knowing of sense data doesn't refer back to some special place of knowing. For instance, this is particularly cool when listening to music, as hearing is no longer perceived as related to the head. Music hears itself. Also, that sense of there being a bubble to the mind space has popped for good, resulting in a permanent sense of boundarylessness. The being or system is also experientially aware that the mind is really a hive mind. There isn't a unified experience happening to one subject. That notion is a constructed projection manifesting further along the chain of hierarchical generative models as multiple sensory inputs are stitched together at a later time. In fact, it is thoroughly understood that everything is a model construction, and that this stage isn't like the other stages, because now you realize the mind is impossible to objectively structure. Any kind of modeling of it, sense of its parameters, are just empty constructed models within it. Even infinite space or a void or it being made of a substance. The will to be and the will to not be don't resonate at a deep level anymore, because those wills can't connect to a central column of being. If posited, they just ring through the mind without landing. Okay, take this next part as speculative, because I don't know how it will be for everyone at this stage, but this is my general assessment. Emotional fluctuations don't occur like they used to unless there is an obvious cause, because something clearly problematic has happened, which requires serious recalibration and an updating of priors. Whereas before this stage, emotions would cycle during the day based on blood sugar levels, stress levels, with illness, and going through the stages of insight, and just naturally as they do. You know, sometimes you're having a good day, sometimes a bad day, good mood, bad mood, for no obvious reason. Now there is incredible emotional stability, unless something obvious happens, in which case emotions are seen as signals with clear messages like, attend to this. But even then, when they arise, they seem nowhere near as suffering-inducing as they did before. And they are processed in a fraction of the time it otherwise would have taken. Otherwise, one can go weeks or more without any flux in mood, and this is seemingly irrespective of their energy levels, of how tired they are. Now, I want to draw a distinction between what is available via direct inference of experience and what we hypothesize lies outside of direct experience. For the sake of this video, all statements, perspectives, views, we're going to just keep within the ironic confines of direct experience and avoid as much as you would like any metaphysical proclamations, so take it how you will. With that said, with the one central point of knowing dispersed, the practitioner unlocks what I'm calling the superposition perception of enlightenment. Whereas the previous stage could only hold in mind yin or yang at a given moment, this stage is the consilience of all those dichotomies and reconciles those seeming opposites in a way that is not just quickly switching between the two perspectives, but simultaneously holding both in mind at once, in a way that no longer seems paradoxical. What is realized is that each side of the duality is a categorical error, and that reality is neither this nor not this. It is a third special thing, which is not a thing. It cannot be categorized. There is a clear apprehension that what this is neither self nor not self, neither many nor one even, neither something nor nothing, neither form nor emptiness, neither conscious nor not conscious, neither now nor not now, neither being nor not being. It is understood that all of these are category errors, and what reality is cannot be pinned down. It is something so magical it defies any conceivable structure, yet includes all of those conceivable structures as representations of it. It is understood that everything conceivable is an empty model, including emptiness, or the sense that you are conscious, or that there is a mind, or that there is a now. It is understood they are not true. No consciousness, no mind, no now. Consciousness is not a thing, not a material, not a substrate in any way that one previously conceived of it or claims to have direct perception of. This is an unfathomable thought to many. There is a certain thickness baked into people's register of the world, and everything that gives it an unavoidable impression of thinginess, of existing. And this is independent of your intellectual beliefs. Though perception informs the semantic content of thought, this is why phenomenology is crucial to epistemology. However, that sense of viscosity is not an objective feature of whatever sense percept, or of reality, and is not the measure of how actual, how real something is. It is only a measure of how real something seems. I'll just double click on this point. In this stage, the thinning out process has gone so far as to see the evaporation of those impressions. This is inconceivable before this, as the mind had a perceived thickness to it that made it seem undeniably real. But that thickness is not indicative of the actual ontology of mind stuff. They are hollow constructions. The seeming isness quality of something is probably only really appreciable post hoc, after it has been seen through to a degree more. Space and time are deconstructible. The mind setup is made so efficient with not having to relay information through a center that if the practitioner inclines attention to anything, he can isolate many more points of sensory data than otherwise capable. It is understood that any sense of there being a plane of infinite space or field of consciousness is just as much part of the illusion of the world simulation as anything else. Perceptual clarity is so on the ball that quali can be perceived in such a raw fashion that one can single out their information and see that the here and the now are added tags onto sense data, not inherent features. This leads to the perception that everything is experienced through one sense door, without reference to a time and space just information being known without a knower. Before, the now felt like an ardent, real event, but without the singly positioned epistemic agent, there is no one in the heart of experience to declare the now. At this stage, the insight into the unsatisfactory nature of all phenomena takes on an all-new embedded level. This is really the end of dissatisfaction. There is no sense of incompleteness that you feel in the heart of your being anymore. Maybe at previous stages you could notice that go away temporarily, but there would be moments of dissatisfaction still arising. Now it no longer arises. There is a happiness born of seemingly nothing. Now, this stage feels complete. All has been objectified and de-objectified. Every aspect of the mind, including the sense that there is a mind itself, is experientially and instantaneously understood or represented as hollow models and not confused as being things in the way most people conceive of what it means for something to exist. Remember, there is a transcending and including process, so all of the previous stages are understood but contextualized as ephemeral constructions. Also, despite all this crazy phenomenology, you are still a very normal person, and indeed, with this security of well-being that you feel, there's a confidence to be very normal. Some teachings that have a newfound resonance are, there is no ground of being to rest on. In the seeing, there is only the seen. In the hearing, only the heard. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The Heart Sutra speaks volumes. Okay, and here's a quote within Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha by Daniel Ingram. In this full field of experience or manifestation, there seems to be no special or permanent spot that is observing, controlling, separated from, or subject to any other point or aspect of the rest of this causal field of experience or manifestation. This is the experience and realization of the Arhat. Okay, something I heard from Shinzen Young, which is surprisingly on the money. If you could live a day knowing what you know now, but die at the end of that day, or live a whole life but never realize what you have realized, which would you prefer? And it's to live one more day and then die. That's how liberating this is. But despite how total this new configuration seems, I still contend that epistemic humility is a virtue, and that it is inane to assume you know everything. After all, each stage from the witness onwards, one could be tempted to say there are no more stages after this. And in keeping with many other stage theories, we leave open the possibility that there are further stages to be mapped. After all, you don't know what you don't know. So if someone wants to come to me and say there are more stages, I'm all ears. Okay, wrapping up. So I wanted to share these images and detail these configurations of consciousness because of how unknown they are, even among meditators, and to give voice to them as very real possibilities for people to realize. There's lots more that could be picked out of each stage, and they could even be distinctive stages made within stages, I'm sure. These stages can last a long time, years, and it won't always be the same for the person throughout those years within a particular stage. But these do seem to be the big categorical differences from what I can observe. And although I'm certainly not the first or the only one to lay out a map of this kind, this map has really just come from my personal observation of things with myself and others. However, I've also talked to people for whom it's not obvious that they would fall into any one of these particular stages, though I suspect that part of that comes down to the difference in phenomenological language that they use. The mind is complex and can construe itself in a myriad of ways, and I would love to hear from people who may flesh this map out in more detail or offer countervening points, and that hopefully in the future we can get more massive empirical data tracking people's progression in a much more scientific way. Okay, and although that's not everything I have to say on the matter, that's everything I have to say for this video. Thank you very much for sticking to the end and watching the whole series. I hope you did watch all the series, not just skip to this last one. There's lots of important information in the previous videos as well. But anywho, just say be well to yourself, be good to yourself, and to those around you. Goodbye.